Tonight, we begin our journey into a world of sprawling palaces, whispered conspiracies, and inextinguishable ambition. We're traveling back to the glittering, dangerous court of 18th century Russia to understand a woman whose appetite for power, knowledge, and love would redefine an empire. We're diving into the life of the woman who would become Catherine the Great. Forget the simple caricatures history sometimes offers. The truth of her ascent is a story of quiet observation, resilience, and a will as vast and unyielding as the Russian winter itself. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The world you know is shrinking behind you with every turn of the carriage wheel. You are only 14, a German princess from a minor house, whose name, Sophie, feels as small and plain as the lands you are leaving behind. Ahead lies Russia. The word itself sounds like a vast cold expanse, a place of myth and might. For weeks, you travel. The rocking of the coach is a constant companion, the rumble of its wheels a lullaby of both promise and dread. The further east you go, the deeper the snow becomes, swallowing the landscape in a blanket of pristine, intimidating white. You huddle deeper into the furs provided for you, their weight a heavy but welcome reassurance. The air that seeps through the cracks in the carriage door is sharp and clean, smelling of pine and frost. It is so different from the damp, gentle air of your home. You press your hand to the cold glass of the window, your breath misting the pane, and watch the endless forests of birch trees flash by, their slender white trunks like the bars of a cage you are willingly entering. You are a political pawn. You understand this with a clarity that feels too old for your years. You are to be the bride of the heir to the Russian throne, the Grand Duke Peter. Your purpose is simple, singular, to provide another heir, to secure a dynasty. It is a strange fate, to have your entire worth distilled into one single future act. Your mother, who travels with you, is a bundle of nerves and ambition, her whispers a constant reminder of the stakes. You must please the Empress Elizabeth. You must charm the court. You must win the heart of a boy you have never met. You, however, have a different plan forming in the quiet recesses of your mind. You will not just win them, you will become one of them. Finally, the spires of St. Petersburg rise from the frozen horizon, glittering under a pale winter sun. The city is a marvel of impossible grandeur built on a swamp, a testament to the will of a past emperor. The carriage clatters onto the grand avenue leading to the Winter Palace, a building so vast and ornate it seems to have been carved from a glacier and decorated with all the gold in the world. As you step out of the coach, the cold is a physical shock, but it is nothing compared to the shock of the scene before you. Hundreds of faces turn to watch you, a sea of nobles draped in silks and velvets, their jewels catching the light. The air is thick with the scent of beeswax, heavy perfume, and something else. The metallic tang of power. You are led through an endless succession of gilded rooms, your modest German travelling clothes feeling utterly inadequate. Your footsteps echo on the polished parquet floors, each one taking you further away from the girl you were. And then you see her. Empress Elizabeth, daughter of Peter the Great, is a vision of imposing magnificence. She is larger than life, her gown as wide as a doorway, her presence filling the entire hall. Her eyes, shrewd and intelligent, sweep over you, taking in every detail. You feel like a butterfly pinned to a board. Beside her, stands your intended, Grand Duke Peter. He is pale and slight, with a pouting expression that seems fixed on his face. He barely looks at you, more interested in a toy soldier he fiddles with in his hands. A small, sad smile might touch your lips, so fleeting no one would notice. This is the man you are meant to build a future with, the father of the next Tsar. In the days that follow, you are thrown into the dizzying world of the Russian court. The language is a beautiful but impenetrable wall of sound. The customs are a labyrinth of unspoken rules. You learn, for instance, that a person's imenini, their name day, is celebrated with far more pomp and circumstance than their actual birthday. It is a subtle but powerful reminder that your identity is tied not to your birth, but to the saintly protector you share a name with, a concept that feels deeply foreign, yet you file it away. Everything is a performance, from the way a lady holds her fan to the precise angle of a bow. You are a silent observer, a student in a school of intrigue. Your mother's constant nagging and political missteps become a source of acute embarrassment. She does not understand this world, but you are beginning to. You realize your only path to survival, to significance, is to erase Sophie of Anhalt-Zerbst completely. You must become Russian. So, you begin your transformation. You demand tutors for the language, and for the Orthodox faith you must adopt. Your desire to learn is a fire. It consumes you. While the rest of the court sleeps, you are awake, your room lit by a single candle, poring over Russian texts. Your tutor, a kindly priest, is astonished by your diligence. Here, you make a decision that nearly costs you your life, but ultimately seals your destiny. Believing that the cold of your room is making you sleepy, you begin to study in your bare feet, pacing the freezing stone floors of your chambers to keep your mind sharp. The inevitable happens. A raging fever takes hold, and you are plunged into a delirium. The court physicians gather, their faces grim, bleeding you with leeches in the misguided medical fashion of the day. Your mother, frantic, wants to send for a Lutheran pastor, but even in your fevered state, you know this would be a fatal mistake. You refuse, shaking your head weakly, and ask only for your Orthodox priest. This single act, this verifiable display of devotion to your new faith and country, echoes through the palace. When you miraculously recover, Empress Elizabeth looks at you with a new respect. You are no longer just a German girl. You have proven your commitment. When you are finally received into the Russian Orthodox Church, you are given a new name, Yekaterina Alexeyevna, Catherine. You repeat it to yourself. It feels solid, powerful. It feels like a key. You stand at the altar, the scent of incense thick in the air, the sonorous chanting of the priests washing over you. You are Catherine now. The marriage to Peter proceeds, a lavish and hollow affair. Your new husband's attention is still on his toy soldiers, which he arranges in elaborate battle formations on your shared marital bed. The nights are long and cold, but in the quiet flicker of your candlelight, you can feel the faint warmth of a future empire taking shape. The name Catherine feels less like a key now, and more like the title of a book you are trapped inside. The story is not a romance. The nights in the marital bedchamber are exercises in absurdity and humiliation. Your husband, the Grand Duke Peter, has not outgrown his love for toys. He has merely acquired a taste for cruelty to accompany it. He fills the space between you not with affection, but with meticulously arranged battalions of lead and starch soldiers. He spends hours marching them across the silken bedspread, muttering commands and battle cries under his breath. You lie beside him, perfectly still, feigning sleep and breathing in the faint, dusty smell of the painted lead. To speak would be to invite his childish rage. To move would be to disrupt a miniature war. One morning, you awaken to a scene of grotesque ceremony. Peter has assembled a small court-martial. The accused, a palace rat, has been captured and strung up on a tiny custom-built gallows. Its crime, he announces with terrifying seriousness, was to have climbed onto his table and chewed the head off a sentry, a soldier made of flour and water. He insists you bear witness to the execution. You stand there, a Grand Duchess of Russia, watching your husband hang a rodent for treason against a toy. A flicker of dark humour, a truly light smile might cross your mind at the sheer insanity of it all. But beneath the humour is a growing, chilling fear. This is not just a foolish boy. He is unstable. He is the heir to an immense empire, and he is your husband. His cruelty is not reserved for rodents. He takes pleasure in tormenting you with his very public affair with Elizabeth Vorontsova, a lady-in-waiting whose dull eyes and vacant expression are, to you, the greatest part of the insult. He parades her before the court, calls her his Romanova, and openly discusses his plans to divorce you and send you to a convent the moment he takes the throne. He forces you to participate in his military obsessions, making you stand for hours in full court dress, acting as a sentry at his door. The guards in the hallway try to hide their pity as you stand, silent and resolute, your feet aching on the cold marble. Each insult, each moment of degradation chips away at the hopeful girl you were, but it tempers the woman you are becoming into something as hard and brilliant as a diamond. You find your sanctuary in the one place Peter never ventures, the library. The moment you push open the heavy oak doors, the scent of aged paper and leather envelops you like a warm embrace. Here, there are no toy soldiers, no sneering mistresses, only silence and the accumulated wisdom of ages. The shelves stretch up into the shadows, a forest of spines in countless languages. You run your fingers over the tooled leather, the gold leaf titles a silent invitation. This becomes your true home, your real education. You read with an insatiable hunger, not the frivolous romances popular at court, but the challenging, revolutionary works of the French Enlightenment. You sit for hours in a pool of sunlight from a tall window, the dust motes dancing in the air, and lose yourself in the world of Voltaire and Montesquieu. Their words are a revelation. They speak of reason, of justice, of the duties a monarch owes to their people. They argue that power is not merely a birthright, but a responsibility, a contract. You read about law, about history, about philosophy, and with every page you turn, the gilded cage of your life expands. You are not just escaping your miserable marriage, you are preparing. You are giving yourself the education that your pathetic husband, for all his tutors, has utterly failed to acquire. You are learning how to rule. This silent, diligent study is a continuation of the same ferocious will that drove you to master the Russian language, a quiet forging of the tools you will one day need. Outside the library, the court remains a treacherous landscape, but you are learning to navigate it with a new, subtle skill. While Peter plays at war, you begin to play the long game of influence. You learn the silent language of the court, a world of nuance where a single gesture can convey a volume of meaning. You become a master of the visiting card, an otherwise mundane piece of social stationery. In the Russian court, this is a highly codified art. Leaving a card with the top right corner folded down might mean a simple social call, while a fold on the left could signify congratulations or condolences. You use this system to build a web of connections, sending these silent paper messengers to cultivate allies, to acknowledge favors, to remind influential figures of your existence. It is a form of communication that is both discreet and undeniable, a way of building forbidden alliances without ever speaking a treasonous word. It is in this glittering, lonely world that you first feel the touch of genuine warmth. His name is Sergei Saltykov. He is a young, handsome chamberlain, known for his wit and charm. Where your husband is coarse and cruel, Saltykov is elegant and attentive. It begins with a shared glance across the crowded floor of a masquerade ball, your eyes meeting over the top of your feathered fan. It grows in the brief moments his hand lingers on yours during a minuet, a silent pressure that speaks more than any polite phrase. He seeks you out in the quiet corners of the palace gardens, away from the prying eyes of the court. His conversation is not of military drills or court gossip, but of books, of ideas, of the future. He speaks to you not as the Grand Duke's unfortunate wife, but as a woman of formidable intellect and spirit. For the first time since you arrived in this cold, foreign land, you feel seen. This budding connection is more than a cure for loneliness. It is a political act. Saltykov and his circle of friends are intelligent, ambitious men who are deeply worried about Russia's future under a ruler like Peter. They see in you an alternative. They see a mind, a will, a leader. The whispers of an affair are inevitable, and you do little to silence them. They give you a strange sort of power, a mystique. After nearly a decade of a barren marriage, you finally conceive and give birth to a son, Paul. The moment he is born, Empress Elizabeth sweeps in and takes the child, carrying him away to be raised in her own apartments. You are left alone, your arms empty, the purpose of your existence seemingly fulfilled and discarded. The court whispers that the boy, with his dark hair and eyes, is Saltykov's child. You neither confirm nor deny. Let them wonder. The ambiguity is a shield. You look at your reflection in the dark palace window, no longer seeing a lonely German princess, but a woman learning that in a game of thrones, the heart can also be a powerful piece to play. The reflection in the dark palace window is no longer just a witness, it is a conspirator. The years of quiet observation have ended. The air in the winter palace grows thin and heavy as Empress Elizabeth's life ebbs away. Her long, decadent reign is fading, and with every raspy breath she takes, a palpable sense of dread settles over the court. You can feel it in the way the nobles watch each other, their polite smiles tighter than ever. They all know what is coming. They know your husband Peter is a catastrophe waiting to happen. His open admiration for Prussia, Russia's sworn enemy in the ongoing 7 Years' War, is a source of deep shame and anger, especially among the military. You, by contrast, have become the symbol of Russia itself. You attend every Orthodox service, your head bowed in perfect piety. You speak the language flawlessly. You have given them an heir. You are their hope. Then, the moment arrives. Empress Elizabeth is dead. You stand by her deathbed, a model of solemn grief, while your husband weeps with an almost theatrical sorrow. The power shifts in an instant. The courtiers who once pitied you now bow, their faces a mask of careful deference. He is Emperor Peter III, and you are his Empress consort. His first acts as sovereign are not just foolish, they are a direct assault on Russian pride. With a stroke of a pen, he declares peace with his idol, Frederick the Great of Prussia. He effectively nullifies years of brutal warfare and sacrifice, handing back hard-won territories without demanding a single thing in return. The generals of the army are incandescent with rage. He doesn't stop there. He forces the proud Russian regiments to abandon their traditional green uniforms for the stark blue ones of the Prussian army, an unforgivable insult. He drills them relentlessly in the goose-stepping Prussian style, which they despise. He publicly scorns the rituals of the Orthodox Church, the very bedrock of Russian identity, sometimes sticking his tongue out during solemn processions. He is dismantling the legacy of Peter the Great, and with it, his own legitimacy. As your husband alienates every powerful faction in the empire, you draw them closer. Your brief, useful flirtation with Sergei Saltykov is a distant memory. A new, far more powerful connection has taken its place. His name is Grigory Orlov, a towering, charismatic officer of the artillery. He is not a silken courtier. He is a man of raw energy and decisive action, with a booming laugh and an unshakable devotion to you. He looks at you not as an intellectual curiosity, but as a leader worth fighting for, worth dying for. Through him, you gain the unwavering loyalty of his 4 brothers, all of them influential within the Imperial Guard. They become your champions in the barracks, moving through the smoky canteens, spreading discontent about the German emperor and extolling the virtues of his truly Russian wife. They are your instruments, turning the whispers of the court into a groundswell of military support. The final push comes from Peter himself. He is a man who cannot help but accelerate his own destruction. At a state banquet, he publicly insults you, shouting across the table for all to hear, and later reaffirms his intention to divorce you, imprison you in a convent, and elevate his mistress. He also announces a new, senseless military campaign, this time against Denmark, to settle a personal score related to his ancestral home of Holstein. The plan is to drag the resentful Imperial Guard with him. You know then that your life is forfeit if you do not act. The Orloffs send you a clear, urgent message. When Peter leaves with the army for this pointless war, you will be arrested. The time for plotting is over. The time for revolution is now. You are at Peterhof, the seaside palace of fountains and gardens, deliberately separated from the heart of power in St. Petersburg. On the night of June 28th, 1762, you are woken from a restless sleep by a sharp rap on your door. A figure slips into the room, silhouetted against the pre-dawn gloom. It is Alexei Orlov, his face grim with urgency. "It is time to get up," he whispers, his voice rough with adrenaline. "Everything is ready for you to be proclaimed. There is no time for fear." You dress quickly, your heart hammering against your ribs. A carriage is waiting. You slip out of the palace, a shadow moving through the sleeping gardens, and begin the frantic 20-mile journey to the capital. The carriage flies over the rough road, every jolt a reminder of the precipice upon which you stand. You are either riding towards a throne or a prison cell. There is no in-between. The rising sun begins to paint the eastern sky in pale shades of rose and grey, and you wonder if you will live to see it set. You do not head for the Winter Palace. You head for the barracks of the Izmailovsky Guard, one of the elite regiments whose loyalty has been the deciding factor in every Russian palace coup for decades. As your carriage clatters into the courtyard, soldiers spill from the doors, half-dressed and rubbing the sleep from their eyes. A drummer begins a frantic roll. Alexei Orlov leaps out and announces your arrival. And then a sound begins, a low rumble that grows into a roar. "Vivat Matushka! Long live our little mother." Grigory Orlov is there, his face beaming with triumph. He takes your hand, and one by one, the soldiers come forward to kiss it, swearing their allegiance. From there, it becomes a flood. You are given the dark green uniform of an officer of the Semyonovsky Regiment, another of the key guard units. It feels strange and powerful. the rough wool a stark contrast to the silks you have worn for years. You mount a white horse, a gift from a noblewoman who offers it right there in the street, and with Grigory Orlov at your side, you ride at the head of a growing army. The Semyonovsky and Preobrazhensky guards join you, then the horse guards. Citizens pour from their homes, cheering, weeping, throwing flowers. It is a triumphant, bloodless procession. At the Kazan Cathedral, the Archbishop of Novgorod, his robes glittering, officially proclaims you Catherine II, the sole and absolute ruler of Russia. Peter, still at his own palace in Oranienbaum, hears the news too late. He is bewildered, paralyzed by indecision. He boards a yacht to seek refuge at the Kronstadt naval fortress, only to be turned away. They have already sworn allegiance to you. He returns to his palace and weeps. The next day, he is arrested and, with a trembling hand, signs a formal letter of abdication. You stand on the balcony of the Winter Palace, the same palace you entered as a terrified 14-year-old girl. Below you, a sea of faces looks up in adoration. The roar of the crowd is the sound of victory. The crown is not yet on your head, but you can feel its phantom weight, a circle of cold, heavy gold forged in a single audacious night. The roar of the crowd from the palace square begins to fade, replaced by the hushed, expectant silence of the gilded halls. The phantom weight of the crown you felt on the balcony is now settling into a very real and heavy responsibility. The coup, for all its adrenaline and risk, was a single, decisive act. Governing, you realize, will be a series of 1,000 such acts, day after day. You have seized the throne of the largest empire on earth. Now, you must learn how to hold it. And your first challenge is the continued existence of your husband. Peter, the deposed emperor, is a living symbol of the old regime, a magnet for any potential counter-conspiracy. He is being held under guard at a small estate near St. Petersburg called Ropshar, watched over by Alexei Orlov and his men. Just over a week after your triumph, a messenger arrives, his horse lathered in sweat. He bears a letter from Alexei. You break the seal, your fingers steady. The note inside is a frantic, ink-smeared scrawl. It is a confession. Peter is dead. Orlov claims it was an accident, that a drunken quarrel broke out between the former emperor and one of his guards. He writes that he and his men are guilty and deserve execution. You read the words, your face an unreadable mask. An accident, a convenient, unforeseen tragedy, or a deliberate act by your supporters to secure your throne, done without your explicit command, but with your implicit blessing. The court watches your every move. You show the letter to your closest advisor, Nikita Panin, your expression one of profound shock and sorrow. You officially announce that your husband has died from a severe attack of hemorrhoidal colic, a painfully ignominious end for an emperor. An autopsy is performed, and the physicians dutifully confirm the diagnosis. But no one truly believes it. A quiet, cynical phrase begins to circulate through the court's back corridors. The omelette was made, but the eggs had to be broken. The whispers will follow you for years, a dark undertone to your glorious reign. You have been delivered from your greatest liability, but it has come at the cost of a shadow on your soul, a permanent question mark next to your name. With Peter gone, the immediate threat is neutralized, but your position is still fragile. You are a German woman on the Russian throne, a usurper whose own son, Paul, holds a more direct claim by blood. You must move quickly to weave your authority into the very fabric of the state. Your first decrees are masterpieces of political strategy. In a public manifesto, you justify your actions to the people, painting a vivid picture of Peter's incompetence. You detail his insults to the army, his sacrilege against the church, and his betrayal of Russia's honor. You are not a usurper, the manifesto declares. You are the savior of the motherland, reluctantly taking up the burden of power to protect it from a disastrous ruler. You reward the men who put you here with a lavish generosity that binds them to you forever. The Orloff brothers are showered with titles, wealth, and vast estates populated by thousands of serfs. Others in your circle of supporters find themselves suddenly elevated to the highest ranks of the nobility. At the same time, you reverse Peter's most hated policies. The foolish Prussian-style uniforms are abolished, and the beloved dark green of the Imperial Guard is restored. The war against Denmark is unceremoniously cancelled. With these acts, you earn the adoration of the military and the gratitude of the people. You are showing them that you listened to their grievances. The court itself is a minefield of ambition and ego that you must now navigate. Everyone wants your attention, your favour. To manage this, you master the intricate political theatre of royal routine, especially the rituals of the lever and coucher. These are the highly formalised ceremonies of your official rising in the morning and going to bed at night, traditions borrowed from the French court of Versailles. Who is permitted into your chambers for these moments becomes the ultimate measure of status. The honour of handing you your morning cup of chocolate or being the last person to wish you good night is a more potent political statement than any official title. You dispense these privileges with calculated precision, playing factions against each other, soothing bruised egos with a nod, and signalling your favour with a quiet word, all within the seemingly domestic space of your private apartments. You are acutely aware that you are a woman in a world of powerful men, many of whom believe they are your creators and can therefore control you. You decide to prove them wrong not with commands, but with sheer, undeniable competence. You establish a grueling work schedule that shames even the most diligent of your ministers. You rise at 5 each morning, long before the palace stirs. In the quiet chill of the dawn, you light your own fire, a gesture that both surprises and impresses your servants, and sit at your desk. For hours you work, reading state papers, diplomatic correspondence, and policy proposals, making notes in the margins with your quill pen. By the time your advisors arrive, you are often more informed on the matters at hand than they are. A gentle, knowing smile must grace your lips as you see their initial surprise harden into grudging respect. You are not a dilettante. You are not a figurehead. You are the hardest working person in the entire empire. The final, definitive act of your consolidation of power is your coronation. For this, the entire court travels to Moscow, the ancient holy heart of Russia. The ceremony is a magnificent spectacle designed to legitimize your reign through divine right. You ride through the streets in a gilded carriage, the city's 1,000 church bells ringing out. In the sacred space of the Cathedral of the Dormition, surrounded by centuries-old icons, you are anointed with holy oil. Then comes the critical moment. The imperial crown of Russia, a breathtaking creation of gold, silver, and nearly 5,000 diamonds, is presented. You do not wait for the archbishop to place it on your head. You take it in your own hands and crown yourself. It is a clear, defiant statement. You are not ruling as a regent for your son. You are Empress regnant, autocrat of all the Russias, by your own will and merit. The diamonds in your crown sparkle under the candlelight of 1,000 prayers. Yet in the quiet moments, you can still hear the echo of a closing door on a summer estate, a sound that reminds you that an empire, once seized, must be held every single day. The diamonds in your crown are cold against your brow during the long hours of state business. You have held the empire, but the daily act of ruling is a relentless, grinding pressure. In the dizzying first years of your reign, your anchor in this storm of responsibility is Grigory Orlov. He is the hero of your revolution, the man whose boldness made your ascension possible. In the cold, formal world of the court, he is a source of raw, uncomplicated warmth. His laughter echoes in your private apartments, a welcome antidote to the whispered machinations of your ministers. He is handsome, virile, and his devotion to you is a fierce, possessive fire. This is not the calculated courtship of a courtier. It is the straightforward passion of a soldier who has won his prize. The bond between you deepens. You are not just Empress and her favorite. You are Catherine and Grigory. In the deep secrecy of the palace, away from the prying eyes of the world, you give birth to a son, a boy named Alexei, after his uncle. He is the living embodiment of your love for Grigory, a secret you must both carry. The child is given the surname Bobrinsky and spirited away to be raised by trusted guardians. A ghost in your own life story, a sacrifice laid at the altar of the state. You can be a mother, but you can never be seen as one, not with this child. The secret ties you and Grigory together in a way that no public ceremony ever could. Emboldened by this intimacy, by his undeniable place at your side, Grigory does the unthinkable. He asks you to marry him. He wants to make you his wife, to make your secret son legitimate, to become your prince consort. The proposal sends a shockwave through your inner circle. Your chief advisor, the coolly pragmatic Nikita Panin, is appalled. In a tense meeting of your council, where the very future of your reign hangs in the balance, Panin makes his argument with devastating clarity. He turns not to you, but to the other advisors who are considering the idea. The Empress can do as she pleases, he states, his voice cutting through the tension, but Madame Orlova can never be the Empress of Russia. His words strike you with the force of a physical blow because you know they are true. To marry Grigory Orlov would be to diminish yourself. It would validate every whisper that you are merely a puppet, that he was the true force behind the coup and is now claiming his reward. You would no longer be Catherine the Great, Empress by the will of God and the people. You would be the wife of a subject you yourself had elevated. It is the first great test of your reign, a brutal choice between the desires of your heart and the duties of your crown. You look at Grigory, this vibrant man who risked everything for you, and you see the hope in his eyes. But when you look at the map of your empire on the wall, you see the vast, demanding entity to which you are truly wed. With a heavy heart, you refuse him. You do it gently, showering him with more titles, more land, more wealth, as if to compensate for the one thing you cannot give him. But the refusal creates a subtle, indelible fracture in your relationship. The easy, sun-drenched passion of the early days is gone, replaced by something more complex and shadowed. He remains your favorite, your lover, but the dream of a shared throne is dead, and you both know it. You begin to notice his limitations more clearly. You find a gentle, ironic sadness in the fact that the very qualities that made him the perfect man to lead a rebellion, his brute force, his impatience with protocol, his gloriously simple view of the world, make him a clumsy and ineffective statesman. You can discuss the philosophies of Voltaire for hours with your correspondents abroad. But with Grigory, talk of politics often ends in frustration. He cannot grasp the nuances of diplomacy, the delicate art of compromise. Still, his position as the official favourite is a political reality that the entire court must navigate. His influence is measured in the small rituals of palace life. The giving of a prikaz, a small, informal order or gift from you, becomes a public spectacle. Should you send him a note by private page or bestow a jewelled snuff box upon him after a game of cards, the court takes notice. His mood after a private audience in your chambers is scrutinised by every ambassador and minister. A smile from him can make a career. A scowl can send a chill through the ambitions of even the most powerful nobles. He is the barometer of your favour, and he knows it. Your long, complicated affair continues for over a decade. He is unfaithful, and so are you, but the bond remains. And then, a crisis erupts that reminds you of his fundamental strength. In 1771, a devastating outbreak of bubonic plague sweeps through Moscow. The city descends into chaos. Terrified citizens, fueled by superstition, riot in the streets, murdering doctors and officials. The city is on the brink of collapse. While your ministers wring their hands, you see an opportunity for the man of action. You dispatch Grigory Orlov, not as a politician, but as an imperial commissar with absolute authority. It is the role he was born to play. He arrives in the dying city like a whirlwind. He faces down mobs, hangs rioters, and establishes a ruthless quarantine. He orders the burning of contaminated property, sets up makeshift hospitals, and organizes food supplies. He is fearless, decisive, and brutally effective. Within months, he has broken the back of the plague and restored order. He returns to St. Petersburg a national hero. You greet him with all the pomp and ceremony he deserves, commissioning a grand triumphal arch in his honour. For a moment, seeing him ride beneath it to the cheers of the crowd, the old pride and affection swell in your heart. You see the man who put you on the throne, the hero who saved your ancient capital. You stand before the triumphal arch built in his honour, a monument to his courage. Yet you both know it is also an epitaph for a dream of a shared throne, a silent testament to the vast, lonely distance the crown places between you. The triumphal arch, dedicated to Grigory Orlov, stands as a proud monument in St. Petersburg, but for you, it marks the closing of a chapter. The raw, tumultuous passion that defined the early years of your reign has cooled, settling into the complex reality of shared history. Your insatiable appetite, the one that drove you to master a language, devour a library, and seize a throne, now turns from the heart of one man to the soul of an entire nation. You look at the vast, sprawling medieval empire you command, and you decide you will remake it in the image of the Enlightenment. If you cannot have the simple happiness of a wife, you will have the immortal glory of a philosopher queen. Your primary tool in this grand project is your quill pen. You begin a correspondence with the most famous and influential man in Europe, François-Marie Arouet, better known as Voltaire. This is no simple exchange of pleasantries. For 15 years, you and the sage of Ferney engage in a vibrant, sustained dialogue of ideas that captivates the intellectual world. Your letters, carried by diplomatic pouch across the continent, are filled with discussions of law, tolerance, and justice. You are his Star of the North, his Semiramis of Russia. He becomes your greatest admirer and your most effective public relations agent, trumpeting your enlightened virtues to the salons of Paris. You send him gifts, including a luxurious sable fur coat that you designed yourself, and he sends you back the validation you crave. Not exactly a text message, but these carefully crafted handwritten notes carry far more weight, shaping the opinion of a continent and cementing your reputation as a new kind of monarch. Your ambition is not just to be known in Europe, but to make your capital, St. Petersburg, the equal of any in Europe. You decide it needs a world-class collection of art, and you begin to acquire it with the same focused intensity you apply to statecraft. This is the birth of the hermitage. It begins as a personal sanctuary, a place of retreat from the endless demands of the court, its name literally meaning a hermit's dwelling. But your collecting is anything but retiring. You dispatch agents across Europe with seemingly limitless funds and a simple command: buy the best. They do not just buy paintings, they buy entire collections. When a famous trove of Dutch masters comes up for sale, you acquire it wholesale. Hundreds of works by Rembrandt, Rubens, Frans Hals, and Van Dyck are packed into crates and shipped across the Baltic Sea. The walls of your winter palace begin to fill, and then new wings must be built to house the staggering influx of masterpieces. You are not merely decorating, you are importing centuries of Western culture, creating a national artistic inheritance where none existed before. Your efforts reach into Russian society itself. You are determined to cultivate a native enlightenment. You establish new schools and academies, but your most revolutionary creation is the Smolny Institute for Noble Maidens. It is one of the very first state-sponsored schools for women in Europe, a radical statement that the ideals of education and reason should not be exclusive to men. You take a personal interest in its curriculum, hoping to cultivate a new generation of educated, cultured Russian women. You also turn your own hand to writing, composing dozens of plays, fables, and opera librettos. Many are light comedies that gently satirize the very social customs you must preside over each day. There must be a quiet smile on your face as you pen a scene mocking a fawning courtier, knowing that the very man who inspired the character will be sitting in the front row at the premiere, applauding enthusiastically. The grandest project of your enlightened reign, however, is your attempt to reform Russia's ancient and tangled legal system. You envision a new code of laws, one based on reason and humane principles. For 2 years, you lock yourself away for hours each day, personally drafting a document called the nakaz, or the instruction. It is a monumental work of political philosophy, a blueprint for a modern state, drawing heavily from the pages of your intellectual heroes, Montesquieu and the Italian jurist Cesare Beccaria. It calls for equality of all citizens before the law and denounces the use of torture. To turn these lofty principles into actual law, you convene a legislative commission in Moscow. It is an extraordinary event, a social experiment on an imperial scale. For the first time, delegates from nearly every corner of your vast empire and every social class, except, crucially, the serfs, are brought together in one hall. A nobleman in a Parisian-style silk coat might find himself seated next to a merchant in a heavy kaftan, just rows away from a Bashkir chieftain from the distant steppes in his traditional furs. The sheer diversity of dress, language, and custom is a vivid portrait of the empire you rule. Translators work furiously as delegates debate the articles of your nakaz. But here, in this great hall, you confront the stubborn reality of Russia. The noble delegates want to preserve their ancient privileges. The merchants want to protect their commercial interests. No one is willing to cede ground for the common good. The institution of serfdom, the great, unmovable weight that anchors Russian society, is the one topic too dangerous to truly touch. After more than 200 sessions, the commission dissolves, having failed to agree on a single new law. It is a bitter disappointment. You learn the profound difference between discussing ideal justice with a philosopher 1,000 miles away and implementing it in a realm built on centuries of feudal tradition. The hermitage glows with the genius of 1,000 masterpieces. Your letters cross a continent spreading your fame. But you know that beyond the palace walls, the great, silent, unenlightened heart of Russia beats to an older, slower rhythm. The gilded halls of the Hermitage are filled with the silent beauty of masterpieces, a testament to your enlightened vision. Your name is celebrated in the salons of Paris as a new kind of monarch. Yet, there is a profound solitude in being a philosopher on a throne. You correspond with the greatest minds of Europe, but they are distant figures. Their praise a pleasant but remote echo. Your ministers are capable, your courtiers deferential, and your affair with Grigory Orlov has long since cooled into a comfortable, passionless arrangement. You are surrounded by people, yet you are intellectually and emotionally alone. A sun without a planet to warm. You have an empire to rule, but no one with whom to truly share the colossal burden and breathtaking dream of it all. Then he arrives, not as a newcomer, but as a man transformed. You have known of Grigory Alexandrovich Potemkin for years. He was a striking young officer in the Horse Guards who, during the chaos of your coup, famously gave you his own sword knot to complete your uniform when yours was missing. Now, he returns to court from the Russo-Turkish War, a decorated general, a hero whose name is on everyone's lips. He storms back into your life with the force of a summer thunderstorm. He is a giant of a man, broad-shouldered and imposing. He is not handsome in the polished, courtly way of your previous lovers. His face is rugged, and one of his eyes is gone, lost to an infection years ago, giving him a brooding, intense gaze. He can appear slovenly, his uniform askew, yet he moves with an animal magnetism that makes every other man in the room seem pale and insignificant. What truly captivates you, however, is his mind. From your very first conversations, you realize you have met your match. Unlike Orlov, who was a man of action but not of ideas, Potemkin is both. He doesn't just flatter you with practice compliments. He engages you, argues with you, even contradicts you, his mind flashing with a brilliance that excites and challenges your own. He has read as much as you have, and his ambition is, if possible, even more vast. While you have been focused on reforming and enlightening Russia from within, he dreams of expanding it, of pushing its borders south. He speaks with a fiery passion of conquering the Crimea, of building a great Black Sea fleet, of creating new cities out of the empty steppe. He whispers of a Greek project, a breathtakingly audacious plan to resurrect the Byzantine Empire with your grandson on the throne in a liberated Constantinople. In him, you see a perfect mirror of your own soul. He is as insatiable as you are, for power, for knowledge, for beauty, for Russia. He is the first person you have ever met who is not intimidated by your power or your intellect. Instead, he revels in it. He sees your greatness and wants not to serve it, but to join it, to become its co-creator. This electrifying meeting of minds quickly ignites into the great romance of your life. The court watches, stunned, as you gently dismiss the aging Grigory Orlov, sending him on a long leave of absence with a generous pension. In his place, you install Potemkin. He is your new acknowledged favourite, but the term feels utterly inadequate. Your famous correspondence begins, a torrent of letters that flow between you daily, sometimes hourly, even when you are both in the same palace. These are not the stately, philosophical letters you write to Voltaire. They are raw, passionate, jealous, and tender. You fill pages with pet names. He is your golden pheasant, your idol, your hero, and you are his little mother, his marble beauty. You pour out your heart, your fears, your frustrations, and your boundless love in a way you have never done with anyone. I am holding the pen and my heart is overflowing, you write. My affection for you is beyond all expression. You have found your other half. The bond becomes so profound, so all-encompassing that history whispers you took the ultimate step. Sometime in 1774, it is believed, in a small private chapel, attended only by a trusted priest and a few servants, you and Grigory Potemkin were secretly married. There is no official record, no state document, but a marriage would explain the unique, unbreakable nature of your relationship. It would explain why, in your most private letters, you call him your husband, your master, your dearest friend. It would explain why his position at your side remained unassailable for the rest of his life. This new reality shatters the established customs of your court. The official favourite had always been known as the Vremenschik, the man of the moment, a position held only as long as he held the monarch's romantic affection. Potemkin completely redefines the role. He becomes your partner in power, your undeclared prince consort, your co-ruler. In time, the physical passion between you will cool, and you will both take other, younger lovers. But Potemkin's position never wavers. In a bizarre and unprecedented arrangement, he often helps you choose his successors, young and handsome adjutants, whom he knows will not threaten his own unique standing. He moves out of the favourite's apartments in the Winter Palace, but he remains your closest advisor, your chief strategist, your other self. In the vast, cold expanse of the Winter Palace, you have found not just a lover, but another sun to orbit, a force of nature whose presence warms and illuminates your world, promising an era not just of enlightenment, but of empire. The two of you are now the twin suns of the Russian court, and your combined light is not just meant to illuminate, but to expand. The era of internal reform, of wrestling with the stubborn soul of old Russia, gives way to a new, more thrilling project. Potemkin's grand visions, once whispered to you in the intimacy of your chambers, are now the official policy of your empire. Your shared gaze turns south, towards the vast fertile plains and the shimmering expanse of the Black Sea. For centuries, this has been an Ottoman lake, a barrier to Russian ambition, its coasts raided by Turkish vassals, the Crimean Tatars. Together, you and Potemkin decide you will shatter that barrier. You will claim the south. The path to this prize is paved with both cannonballs and ink. The First Russo-Turkish War, the conflict that made Potemkin a hero, concludes in 1774 with a resounding Russian victory. But the true triumph is not on the battlefield. It is at the negotiating table. The resulting Treaty of Küçükkaynarca is a masterpiece of your joint diplomacy. On the surface, it seems a reasonable settlement. It grants independence to the Crimean Khanate, freeing it from the rule of the Ottoman Sultan. But you and Potemkin know this is a brilliant fiction. An independent Crimea is a weak Crimea, one that will inevitably fall under the influence of its powerful Russian neighbour. The treaty is a loaded gun, and you now hold it to the head of the Black Sea. It also grants you your first crucial footholds on the coast, and, most importantly, the right to maintain a fleet there. With the ink on the treaty barely dry, you appoint Potemkin the absolute ruler of these new southern territories, a vast, wild, and sparsely populated land of steppes known as Novorossiya, or New Russia. For him, it is a blank canvas on which to paint his extravagant dreams. For you, it is a strategic investment in the future of the empire. He becomes a whirlwind of creative energy. You pour the state's treasury into his hands, and he begins a colossal program of colonization and construction. Where there was only tall grass and nomadic tribes, he wills new cities into being. He founds Kherson, which quickly becomes a major port and the first shipyard for your new fleet. He establishes Nikolaev as another naval base, and his pet project, the grand city of Yekaterinoslav, Catherine's glory, which he dreams will one day become the third capital of your empire. after Moscow and St. Petersburg. You watch from your desk in the Winter Palace, reviewing his endless, wildly expensive plans, with a blend of admiration and exasperation. A small, fond smile plays on your lips. He spends money as if it were water, but the results are magnificent. He is building your new world. The heart of this new world is the Black Sea Fleet. For generations, this had been a Russian dream, but it is you and Potemkin who make it a reality. On the shores of the estuaries near Kherson, a symphony of construction begins. The air fills with the scent of fresh-cut pine and hot tar, the rhythmic clang of thousands of hammers on iron, the shouts of foremen. You can almost feel the vibration of it hundreds of miles away in St. Petersburg. Potemkin is everywhere at once, directing, cajoling, commanding, his one good eye taking in every detail as the immense skeletons of warships rise from the mud. It is a perfect partnership. He provides the manic, on-the-ground energy, and you provide the political cover, the diplomatic manoeuvring, and the seemingly endless stream of rubles required to fund his vision. For nearly a decade, you play the long game. You manipulate Crimean politics, supporting pro-Russian factions, sowing dissent, and waiting for the perfect moment. By 1783, it arrives, citing the constant internal strife and instability within the Khanate. Instability your own agents have carefully nurtured. You make your move. You issue a calm, decisive manifesto. The time for charades is over. You are formally annexing the entire Crimean Peninsula and incorporating it into your empire. To legitimize this audacious land grab, Potemkin, the master of political theatre, orchestrates a grand ceremony. On a high plateau in the heart of the peninsula, he gathers the Tatar nobles, chieftains, and beys. He stages a solemn oath of allegiance. One by one, the Muslim leaders, dressed in their finest robes, are led to a richly decorated table. On it lies a specially prepared copy of the Quran. Each man places his hand upon the holy book, the book of his own faith, and swears a binding oath of loyalty to you, his new Christian Empress. It is a carefully managed ritual designed to transform a conquest into a peaceful, voluntary submission, a way of weaving the Tatars into the fabric of your empire while respecting their customs. The annexation is a staggering success, achieved with almost no bloodshed. The nations of Europe are shocked by the speed and audacity of your move. The Ottoman Sultan fumes in Constantinople, but he is powerless. Your new Black Sea Fleet, anchored at the magnificent natural harbour of Sevastopol, makes any attempt to retake the peninsula impossible. You have done it. Together, you have realised the dream of generations of Tsars. You stand before a great map in your study in the Winter Palace, a place of quiet reflection. You run your finger along the new coastline on the map, the peninsula of Crimea now shaded in the same colour as Moscow and St. Petersburg. And you know this land was conquered not just by armies, but by two perfectly aligned wills, a shared dream drawn onto the world with ink and iron. The lines on the map are now a vivid, saturated colour, but they are still just lines on paper. The new southern lands, your Novorossiya and your Crimean jewel, are a reality you have created but not yet witnessed. Potemkin, your partner in this grand venture and the ultimate showman, insists that this must be rectified. You must not only see your new domains, but you must do so in a manner so magnificent that it will awe your own people and send an undeniable message of power to the courts of Europe. And so begins the plan for your great Crimean journey of 1787, a royal progress so extravagant it will become a legend in itself. It is a spectacle of almost unimaginable scale. In the spring, An enormous flotilla of over 80 vessels waits for you on the Dnieper River. You board your personal galley, a floating miniature palace draped in silks of crimson and gold, its cabins panelled in precious woods and filled with luxurious furniture. 7 of these massive galleys are for you and your court. The rest are filled with supplies, servants, and an entire army of support staff. The guest list is a testament to Potemkin's grand theatrical vision. You have brought not only your entire court, but also the ambassadors of the great European powers, including your rivals from France and England. Even the Holy Roman Emperor, Joseph II, is travelling with you, thinly disguised under the title of Count von Falkenstein. Potemkin is not just showing you his work, he is forcing the world to bear witness. As your flotilla glides south down the wide, placid river, the performance begins. The banks of the Dnieper, once described as desolate wild fields, seem to have miraculously bloomed. You gaze from the deck of your galley at a string of newly constructed villages, their cottages neatly whitewashed and their roofs freshly thatched. Crowds of cheerful, well-fed peasants dressed in colourful new clothes stand along the shoreline, waving and singing songs in your honour. In the fields behind them, plump herds of cattle graze contentedly in lush green pastures. It is a perfect tableau of prosperity and happiness, the living embodiment of the Enlightenment ideal of a well-ordered state under a benevolent monarch. The foreign ambassadors are astonished, scribbling dispatches to their kings about the incredible speed and success of your colonization efforts. This idyllic journey is the source of one of history's most enduring legends, the Potemkin village. The story, gleefully spread by Potemkin's many political enemies after the fact, claims that this was all a sham. They whispered that the villages were nothing more than painted canvas facades, propped up to be seen from the river. The happy peasants were said to be actors, herded overland under the cover of darkness from one fake village to the next, ready to perform their role again the next day. The fat herds of cattle were supposedly the same animals, driven along the route to be seen over and over. The truth, as you know, is far more complex and interesting. Potemkin is a showman, not a con man. There is no doubt he engaged in a bit of theatrical window dressing. He certainly made sure the villages on your route were given a fresh coat of paint and that the peasants were encouraged to wear their Sunday best. He may have moved a herd or two to a more visible pasture. But the idea of mobile, fake villages is a malicious caricature. He was not creating an illusion from nothing. He was curating reality. He was putting the best possible face on a genuine, if imperfect, achievement. The new cities of Kherson and Yekaterinoslav were real. The thousands of colonists, while not all as uniformly cheerful as the ones you see, were real. He was a national builder and an event planner rolled into one, and this journey was his grand opening gala. The climax of the trip comes as you leave the river and travel overland into the Crimea itself. Here, the spectacle reaches fantastical heights. At one stop, Potemkin has arranged for a review of your own personal Amazon company. You watch, amazed, as 100 women, the wives and daughters of local Greek soldiers, parade before you. They are dressed in magnificent custom-made uniforms of crimson velvet skirts and green velvet jackets, topped with turbans decorated with ostrich feathers. It is pure romance, a fantastical gesture meant to link your enlightened reign to the classical myths of this ancient land. Later, as you approach the port of Sevastopol, you are guided to a high hill. As you reach the summit, the magnificent vista of the harbour opens up before you, and there, floating at anchor on the brilliant blue water, is the ultimate refutation of all the whispers of illusion. It is your Black Sea Fleet. Dozens of brand new, powerful warships, their masts a forest against the sky. As they catch sight of your imperial standard, the cannons erupt in a deafening, thunderous salute, the smoke rolling across the water. This is no painted facade. This is hard power. This is the key to your southern dominion. The foreign ambassadors stand beside you, their faces a mixture of awe and undisguised alarm. That evening, you stand on a balcony with Potemkin, the scent of magnolias and the sea in the air. You look at him, the grand impresario of this imperial dream. You know about the paint and the polish, the carefully staged cheers. But you also see the truth beneath it. The cities, the fleet, the empire. He is perhaps the only man in the world who would conquer a province and then re-landscape it just to please his sovereign and lover. A knowing, affectionate smile is shared between you. The fiery passion of your early years has matured into this, a deep, unshakable partnership in the creation of a world. As your carriage travels north weeks later, back to the familiar mists of the capital, the sun-drenched images of the south feel like a waking dream, and you are left to wonder where Potemkin's grand performance ended and the true substance of your new empire began. You return from your triumphant tour of the south at the absolute zenith of your power. Your empire is larger, your reputation more brilliant than ever before. In the great capitals of Europe, you are no longer just a usurper. You are Catherine the Great, the living embodiment of the Enlightenment, a philosopher queen who has befriended Voltaire, tamed a vast wilderness, and redrawn the map of the world. The future of Russia seems as bright and limitless as the southern sun you have just left behind. You and Potemkin, your indispensable partner, have built a new reality. But even as you celebrate, whispers of a different kind of reality begin to drift in from the west, carried on the wind, like the first chill of a coming winter. The year is 1789. The news from France at first is merely intriguing. King Louis XVI, a monarch you consider well-meaning but weak, is having financial troubles and has summoned the Estates General, an ancient representative assembly that has not met in over a century. You follow the developments with the keen interest of a fellow sovereign and a student of political science. But soon, the dispatches from your ambassador in Paris grow more frequent, their tone more urgent. There is talk of a national assembly, of a tennis court oath. Then comes the news that a mob has stormed the Bastille, an old royal fortress and prison. A part of you, the part that read Voltaire and corresponded with Diderot, might see this as a justified, if messy, blow against old despotism. But then a document arrives that changes everything. You hold in your hands a printed copy of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. As you read the articles, a cold dread settles in your heart. It speaks of men being born and remaining free and equal in rights. It declares that the source of all sovereignty resides essentially in the nation, not in the king. This is not reform. This is a complete inversion of the natural order of the world as you understand it. This is not the rational, orderly progress you have championed. This is chaos. The Enlightenment, your guiding star, has seemingly led France into madness. You famously declare it a sickness of the mind, an execrable French example. The philosophers, whose books line your shelves, whose ideas you used to build your own fame, now seem like dangerous sorcerers who have unleashed a plague upon the world. That plague of ideas, you resolve, will not infect your Russia. The open, inquiring spirit of your golden age is over. The curtain comes down. You, who once wrote daring, satirical plays, now become a ruthless censor. You order the closing of private publishing houses and the burning of subversive books. The intellectual climate of your court freezes overnight. Even fashion becomes a political statement. For decades, your nobility had eagerly copied every trend from Paris, their speech peppered with French phrases, their clothes the latest models from Versailles. Now, this slavish imitation becomes deeply suspect. A nobleman who wears his hair in the new, short Brutus style, popular with the revolutionaries, might find himself the subject of your icy disapproval. The use of French political terms like citoyen or convention becomes taboo. There is a conscious, almost panicked, return to what is perceived as a more sober, conservative Russian or English style. The vibrant, cosmopolitan court you fostered for 30 years grows fearful and insular. The revolution feels like a deep personal betrayal. It undermines the central project of your life, to prove that autocracy could be enlightened. The chaos in Paris seems to mock your efforts, suggesting that the path of reason leads not to order and justice, but to regicide and mob rule. Young Russian nobles whom you had encouraged to travel abroad return with their heads full of these dangerous new ideas. A writer named Alexander Radishchov publishes a book, A Journey from St. Petersburg to Moscow, which sympathetically details the horrors of serfdom. Years ago, you might have engaged with the book's ideas. Now you see only sedition. You condemn Radishchov as a rebel worse than Pugachev, and have him exiled to the frozen wastes of Siberia. As this political storm rages in the West, a devastating personal storm breaks over you. In the autumn of 1791, while concluding a peace treaty to end yet another successful war against the Turks, Grigory Potemkin falls gravely ill with a fever. Stubborn to the last, he ignores his doctors and insists on travelling from the negotiations in Jassy to his beloved city of Nikolaev. He never makes it. His carriage is stopped in the middle of the vast, empty Bessarabian steppe, and he dies in the arms of his favourite niece on a simple rug laid out on the grass. When the news reaches you in St. Petersburg, you collapse. The court is shocked by the raw, unrestrained violence of your grief. Your twin son, the only man who was your true equal, your partner in building an empire, has been extinguished. A terrible, cruel blow has just struck me, you write, your hand trembling. My pupil, my friend, my idol, Prince Potemkin of Taurida, is no more. For weeks you are inconsolable, refusing to see anyone, a recluse in your own palace. The world you built together suddenly seems fragile and terrifyingly empty. The lights of the hermitage seem dimmer now. The philosophies on your shelves feel like hollow lies, and you, the star of the north, are left to navigate the coming darkness alone, with only the ghost of an empire builder at your side. The ghost of Potemkin now walks the halls of the Winter Palace with you. In the vast, silent rooms, you feel his absence like a physical presence. The world outside has become a darker, more frightening place. The news from France, culminating in the execution of King Louis XVI and his queen Marie Antoinette, has confirmed all your worst fears. The hopeful, sunlit era of enlightenment is definitively over, replaced by a grim twilight. You are older now, in your 60s, and the fire of your ambition, while not extinguished, burns with a different, more solitary flame. Your daily routine remains a testament to your unyielding will. You still rise at dawn, often before the servants, and make your way to your desk. The piles of state papers are as high as ever, the diplomatic dispatches just as urgent. Your mind, you are pleased to find, is as sharp and incisive as it was 30 years ago. You are the autocrat, the undisputed master of your empire, and your grip on the reins of power has not loosened. Yet there is a weariness in your bones that was not there before. The boundless optimism has been replaced by a hardened, cynical pragmatism. You are no longer trying to build a new Jerusalem. You are trying to hold the walls against the coming tide. The profound loneliness left by Potemkin's death creates a void you find you cannot bear. You are no longer looking for a partner in power, an intellectual equal who can challenge and inspire you. No man could ever fill that role again. What you seek now is something simpler: comfort, affection, unquestioning devotion. You seek vitality, a reflection of the vibrant youth that you feel slipping away. And so you turn to a succession of younger favourites. They are, almost without exception, handsome young officers from the Guards, chosen for their striking appearance and charming manners rather than their intellect. A small, self-aware smile might touch your lips in a private moment. After a lifetime of prizing intellect above all else, you, the great philosopher queen, now find solace in the simple, pleasing company of beautiful young men whose primary skills are riding a horse gracefully and looking splendid in a uniform. It is a very human irony. The last and most significant of these companions is a young officer named Platon Zubov. He first catches your eye while Potemkin is still alive, a breathtakingly handsome man more than 30 years your junior. After Potemkin's death, Zubov's star rises with astonishing speed. You shower him with an affection that is almost maternal in its intensity, mixed with the infatuation of an old woman for a beautiful youth. He is your child, your darling, and you cannot deny him anything. You give him titles, palaces, and vast fortunes. But unlike Potemkin, who earned his power through monumental achievements, Zubov is simply handed it. To the alarm of your veteran ministers, you appoint him to the highest positions in the state. He, a young man with little experience, is soon overseeing foreign policy, directing the army, and governing vast territories. It is an indulgence, a weakness, and you know it. But his adoration is a warm balm on your lonely soul, a final, fleeting taste of romance. Your gaze, however, is fixed ever more intently on the future, on the question of your legacy. Your relationship with your own son, the Grand Duke Paul, has never recovered from its cold and distant beginnings. You see in him the ghost of his despised father, Peter III, the same instability, the same obsession with petty military drills. You believe he is utterly unfit to inherit your life's work. So, in a move that echoes the actions of Empress Elizabeth a generation before, you decide to shape the succession yourself. You take your grandsons, Alexander and Constantine, away from their parents the moment they are born. This practice of the reigning monarch raising the heir's children was a Romanov tradition, a way to ensure control and ideological continuity. You oversee their education with a meticulous, obsessive focus. You hire the best tutors, design their curriculum, and fill their heads with the enlightened ideals of your youth. In your eldest grandson, the sensitive and intelligent Alexander, you see your true heir. He will be the one to carry your flame. He will be the enlightened monarch you tried to be, untainted by the reactionary fears that now cloud your own reign. Even as you plan for a future beyond your own life, your old imperial instincts do not desert you. With grim determination, you oversee the final acts of a long drama on your western border. The once great Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, weakened by internal strife, is helpless before its powerful neighbours. In two final partitions in 1793 and 1795, you, along with the rulers of Prussia and Austria, carve up the remaining territory, completely erasing Poland from the map of Europe. It is a ruthless act of pure realpolitik, a final, unsentimental securing of your borders. The idealistic young woman who read Montesquieu and dreamed of just laws is gone, replaced by a pragmatic old empress consolidating her gains. Your world has grown smaller. It is a world of memories, of ghosts, and of carefully laid plans. You look at the handsome face of young Zuboff and see a pleasing echo of a youth long past. But when you look at your grandson Alexander, you see the only thing that matters now. A desperate final attempt to write your own last chapter, to ensure the sun does not set on the empire you built. The year is 1796. The light of the 18th century, your century, is fading. You are 67 years old. The empire is stable. Your grandson Alexander is being molded into your ideal successor, and your final favorite, Platon Zuboff, keeps you company with his charming youthful devotion. Your life, once a raging river of ambition, has slowed, meandering now through the familiar landscape of memory toward the great, quiet sea of eternity. It is a cold morning in mid-November. The pale, watery sunlight of St. Petersburg does little to warm the immense stone walls of the Winter Palace. You wake, as you always have, at the break of dawn. You go through the familiar rituals that have anchored your life for more than 34 years on the throne. The strong, unsweetened coffee. The crisp state papers laid out on your great mahogany desk in your study. The silence of the palace before the rest of the world has stirred. You sit at your desk, the weight of a heavy silk robe on your shoulders, and for a moment, you don't pick up your quill. You simply look out the tall window at the grey mist rolling in from the Neva River, and you let the ghosts of your life fill the room. You see a pale, determined German girl named Sophie, shivering not just from the Russian cold, but from the enormity of her fate. You can almost feel the biting chill of the stone floors on her bare feet as she paced at night, determined to conquer a language and a religion, determined to belong. You smile faintly at the memory of your husband, Peter, a foolish, cruel boyman, marching his toy soldiers across your bed and holding a solemn court-martial for a rat. His memory is no longer painful, just a strange, almost unbelievable prologue to the life you truly built. The ghosts of your great loves are here too. Grigory Orlov, so bold and handsome, the hero of the coup that gave you everything. You remember the agony of refusing his proposal, the first time you truly understood the crushing weight of your crown. And then, Potemkin. His image is the sharpest, the most vivid. You see his one-eyed, laughing gaze. You hear the boom of his voice arguing with you, dreaming with you. You see the flotilla of golden barges on the Dnieper, the fireworks exploding over the brand new harbour of Sevastopol. His loss is still a hollow ache in your chest, the absence of your other half. You glance at the rows of leather-bound books, the works of Voltaire and Montesquieu, and remember the bright, boundless hope of the Enlightenment, a hope that now seems so naive, shattered by the bloody news from revolutionary France. Your life has been a series of impossible gambles that paid off. You, a minor princess, became the autocrat of all the Russias. You, a woman, ruled a nation of powerful men and bent it to your will. You have added vast, rich territories to your empire, built new cities, amassed one of the greatest art collections in the world, and written your name across a century. You are satisfied. You are ready. You push yourself up from your desk, the morning's work still waiting. You pass from your study through your bedroom, heading towards your small private powder closet. You take a step across the threshold, and then the world inside your head explodes in a silent, stunning flash of light. There is no pain. There is no fear. There is only a sudden, immense pressure a feeling of falling, and then a swift, deep, and final darkness. Catherine the Great, the star of the north, is gone. Your servants wait. An hour passes. They grow anxious. They knock, and there is no answer. Finally, they force the door. They find you on the floor, unconscious, your face purple, a trickle of foam on your lips. They carry your heavy, limp body to your bed. The palace is thrown into a panic. Doctors are summoned, but they can do nothing but shake their heads. You have suffered a massive stroke. You are alive, but your mind, the mind that ran an empire, is no longer there. Your estranged son, Paul, is called to the palace. He arrives, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. As you lie dying, he does not sit by your bedside. He goes directly to your study, to your private desk, and begins to rifle through your papers. He is searching frantically for the will he has always feared you had written, the one that would pass the throne directly to your beloved grandson, Alexander, and bypass him entirely. History will whisper that he found it, and that its pages, containing your final wish for your empire, turned to ash in the fireplace that very night. You linger through the next day, your breathing shallow. The court holds its breath. An era is ending. The legacy you leave is as vast and complicated as Russia itself. You expanded its borders from the Baltic to the Black Sea. You gave it a European cultural standing it had never known. But you also strengthened the autocracy you seized and left the chains of serfdom firmly in place for millions. In the years after your death, ugly, salacious myths will be invented about you, about your appetites, about your final moments. They are the crude weapons of men trying to diminish a power they could not comprehend, to tarnish the memory of a woman who outplayed them all. The following evening, as the lamps are being lit against the November gloom, you breathe your last. The great clock of your reign has stopped. The story now begins to soften and fade, like the candlelight being gently extinguished in the quiet corners of the vast winter palace. The echoes of a life filled with impossible ambition and passionate love now dissolve into the stillness of the night. Let the grandeur of the imperial court, the rustle of silk gowns, the weight of the golden crown, all melt away. Your own journey is ending for tonight, a journey into a deep and peaceful rest. Feel the weight of your own body sinking comfortably into your bed, grounded and secure. The whispers of history are quieting now, becoming just a soft murmur on the edge of your hearing. There are no more decrees to write, no more empires to build. There is only this moment, this quiet, this gentle drift into slumber. Let the story go, and allow your mind to be as calm and still as the deep, silent snows of a Russian winter. Sleep now. Sleep well.